Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast, episode 73.
Everyone wants happiness and success, and we know how to get you there. Come listen to the Leadership Society of Arizona as we teach a proven logic to help you simplify life, overcome challenges, and predict the future. You're listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast.
Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. My name is Chuck Solanas, and I'm joined by our special guest, Dr. Jacob Kashiwagi.
Hi, Chuck.
Do we consider you a guest at this point?
I like being a guest.
Okay.
Somehow you always get treated better when you're a guest, you know?
Yeah. Good point. Fair. We'll keep calling you the guest. All right. So I want to continue our discussion on influence that we had last time. And so I'm going to fire away. So if one family has two children who become failures, whatever definition that is, and another family has two children who become successful, whatever definition that is, does that have anything to do with the parents' actions?
Yes, definitely. 100% has to do a lot of things with the parents' actions. So now I just confuse you because the last podcast I told you parents are not responsible or accountable for their children's actions. But remember, influence does not mean when you interact with things you don't have an impact on life and on people. But it identifies that the individual determines what the impact is. And the individual determines who's around them, what happens around them, what they see around them, what they take from it, and how it affects their life. Right? So the individual has total control over what they go through, over their whole environment. Right? But everything in their environment, even though they have full control over it, has an impact on them. So you will find that's why the old adage, birds of a feather flock together, is so true. Because people who are high risk tend to be next to other people who are at high risk. People who seem to know and understand how to parent and raise children really well, they seem to have children who turn out really well. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And in my master's thesis, dolphins that jump really high and like to show off for people, they tend to find really good trainers at amusement parks to give them fish. And so they just match up. They don't have influence on each other, but they seem to draw each other because of who they are. They have similar variables or similarities in who they are that draws them to each other and gives them what they need. And that impact has an effect. It's just they control what happened and what the impact on it is. So when kids turn out to do great things, oftentimes you can see things that were done in their family's life that really help them develop and have the capability to go off and do those great things. This makes sense.
Yes, but it kind of confuses the influence thing. So you're saying because there's birds of a feather flock together, these people that are like-minded are going to be attracted to other like-minded people. The problem is that when we're looking at influence, we're thinking, all right, because these two people are together, the one person affects the other and this person affects this person. And so all throughout life, it's like that is the assumption, right?
Yes, but I'm saying yes, when two people get together, they have an impact on each other. But what I'm saying is each of these individuals controlled their own life, controlled who they met, so controlled that this person controlled that they met this person, and this person controlled that they met this person. And so whatever impact comes from it they each control what that is, and they control what they take from that interaction and how that impact occurs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're saying because the person controls their whole life, which is also kind of a difficult thing for people to understand.
That, on the whole logic, theology behind that, that's years and years of research. The explanation is not very difficult, but you have to go to other podcasts or other information that we have published to be able to see that. The best place is my No Mentoring book, my No Influence Mentoring book. No Mentoring, which is very close to what the No Influence Mentoring is. It's minimizing how much you do. But that has a good explanation of and helps you walk through how someone controls their entire life and how logic and reality shows that. But yes.
Okay, but the basic idea behind that, you control your whole life and therefore no one influences you, that you don't control, right? You control any impact that anyone else has on you.
Yes.
Therefore,
so this is me walking through life. This is me walking through life.
Okay.
Any person that walks up to me, any person I happen to meet, any condition, idea, whatever that comes into my mind from the outside, I'm controlling here as I walk through life. I walk down the street. Sometimes I don't even see this person and I walk right by them. Sometimes I'm attracted to that person. I'm watching them for whatever reason. Could be a good reason, could be a not so good reason. I'm watching them, right? They're doing something funny maybe, or maybe, they're very impressive, whatever it might be. So I control who I meet, I control who I look at, I control who I watch, what I do, and that determines my whole surroundings is me. That's what no influence means.
Okay.
Now, if I come into contact with someone, there's going to be an impact, right? There's always an impact. This person has an impact on me, but I control it. I determine what it was.
I guess the part that kind of throws me for a loop is that, back to the original question, if one family has two children who become failures, whatever definition that is, and another family has two children who become successful, whatever definition that is, does that have anything to do with the parents' actions? The answer is yes, but the parents aren't necessarily accountable for them becoming successes or them becoming failures, is what you're saying.
You got it.
Okay.
It just seems that parents that do certain things tend to have children that do certain things.
So that kind of alludes to a view of randomness, right? You think like that the kids that come up into your life, they're your kids, so they're related to you, but it's kind of a mixed bag as far as what's going to happen with them. It seems random to us because we're not.
No. Look. Sometimes it seems random, but the more information you have on children, the more you understand as a parent, how that child grows up is not random at all. You can, from when they're very young, when you figure out who that child is, you start realizing that everything that's happening to that child as they grow up is definitely because of characteristics of that child and what that child does and how that child acts. Right? Not random at all.
Well, so you're saying that because of the characteristics of a parent, you're saying a certain child will come into their life, whether it be born to their family or adopted into their family, or some reason they're there.
Yes.
Now, how they act is dependent on who that person is. They're not accountable for it, but because of who they are as a person, they're going to attract certain individuals that are going to act a certain way.
Yes.
Am I confusing you?
No. That's exactly.
Okay. So it's the outcome of those interactions. You're saying that based off of one child interacting with one person versus another person, because of the characteristics of the individual, they're going to act a different way around each of those two individuals.
Yes, people always do.
Okay, just because of who that person is.
Yes.
And they're not necessarily influencing it, but they just have a specific characteristic that makes it so these same individuals act differently around one person versus another.
Well, everybody acts differently around different people, right? But parents who understand their children, they definitely will act and treat each child differently because the child is different. They need different things, right? And you find that parents who tend to accept the differences in their children and can identify what those differences are and give them what they need, those parents tend to develop children who become very successful. And the reason they become very successful is instead of trying to force all children to become doctors, and so the children grow up in this path trying to become doctors, and then half of them don't become a doctor and just end up getting any type of job, which some of them could become failures, or maybe none of them were gifted to become a doctor, and so they're all failures. Parents who understand the difference, well, they'll look at it and they usually can give the children what they need to become successful being who they are. So I see, oh, this child's a very gifted writer and this child's a very gifted construction worker. So I can provide them both the skills, the interaction, the resource to help them become the best that they can be with who they are. We find that those parents who have that characteristic and accept their children and can understand what the difference is, they tend to raise more successful children.
So basically what you're saying is that if you understand these individual differences of your children, that as you understand them, you're going to provide them with the resources that they need to be individually successful at whatever makes sense for them to be successful at. Your definition of success may not match exactly what they should be successful in. So if you're saying the only way that you can be successful is if you're a doctor, well, they could make a great artist, but it doesn't matter because your definition is they need to be a doctor.
Yes, but not only that is when parents don't understand what their children are good at, they will try to give them certain things that the child cannot use or it does not help the child. And so the child won't grow up to be nearly as successful as they could have, even with their strength, because they're forced to go down this path. One, if they would have gone down this path, they would have been more successful. Now it's what the child needed and what the child was pushing, yes. The parents aren't responsible for that, but it just so happens that parents that do that, they tend to have children who aren't as successful in life.
So the question, it kind of begs the question, if you're trying to force your child down a certain path, are you influencing them?
You're not influencing them, but that's a characteristic that we've just found, that when parents force their children down a certain path, those parents don't have a very good performance history of producing kids that are really good and really happy and successful.
And you're saying that the child controls that too.
Yes.
They must somehow, some way, they must attract a parent that is very controlling or tries to influence them a ton to become a doctor, even though their passion is really in art history or something like that.
You got it.
Okay.
Now, the reason why and why they deserve that and whatnot, that I don't get into it because that gets too complicated. I don't know individual reasons specifically on why. It could be for many different reasons, but then you would need a lot more information.
But based off of the simple information that you understand and what you know, the individual controls their life and the people that come into it and how they react to specific actions of others.
You got it. And there are certain characteristics of parents that tend to develop children that other people perceive as very successful. And there's certain characteristics of parents that other people perceive that their children don't turn out as successful.
Okay, so what are these characteristics?
We kind of went over them, but to sum it up, 1, the parents can tell the difference between the children. 2, the parents understand because of these differences what the child needs to develop and in order for them to learn and understand life. 3, the parents give the children a high degree of freedom. And 4, the children feel accepted by the parents, regardless of if they do well in school or don't do well in school or whatever it might be.
I don't know that a lot of parents fulfill all those characteristics all the time.
It's very hard. It's very difficult. So, it's you do the best you can, and you just you go on with life. But the one thing you do know, if you're a parent or if you're a child, regardless of what it is you do, it's what the child needed, it's what the parent needs, and no one is accountable for the other person and what they turn out to be in life.
Yes. Okay. But your actions still matter. What you're doing still matters. It doesn't make you ultimately accountable.
No, it just matters to you. Your actions matter on what type of person you are. So a lot of people say, well, why should I do anything, good, if it doesn't matter to anyone else? There is no reason. The reason to do good things is because that's who you are. That's what you enjoy. That's what you like. Right? Why do I teach? I don't teach for other people. I teach because I like it. I love it. I love what I do. And everyone should do what they love to do.
Yeah, it kind of changes a lot of perspectives on different things. So like the reason that you serve other people is for yourself. The reason that you help others is for yourself, is what you're saying, right?
I do. I do help other people because that's who I am. That's what I love to do. And it just so happens that when I do that, I tend to meet really good people. It also just so happens that when I do that, a lot of really good people tend to help me in my life. So it's a funny thing. I do it because it's who I am, but I also in doing it, somehow it reciprocates itself, and I get a lot of benefit from it as well.
So it's a networking thing for you.
I guess you could say that, Chuck.
Okay. But you also feel good when you do it, like do good things for other people. You feel that there's a value or a benefit to you in your life. And it's not necessarily because other people are benefiting. It's because when you do that service, you feel great about what you're doing in life.
I learn from it. And so everyone wants something different, but I want to be able to understand people. I want to be able to be good at, when I help someone, I do something that they want, that they enjoy, that really does help them in their own life. And I find it's a very hard thing to do. So I do it often so I can practice and get better at it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the explanation there. And thank you, Dr. Jacob. Thank you, listeners, for listening, and viewers for watching. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. It would be great if you could take a moment to write us a review. For any questions, comments, or topics that you would like to have addressed on the show, email the team at leadaz.org. To learn more about the Leadership Society of Arizona, visit us at leadaz.org.